After Luis Severino's dominant 8-inning performance the other day, do Matt and I consider him a must-add? We're covering him and much more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, winner, your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, is my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, you hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel and gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's a personalized, in-depth experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, covering so much more than we can in this 30-minute episode. You can find the link to our Subtext in the bio wherever you're watching or listening, and it's also available on any of our social media platforms. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePick, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And Matt, I really didn't bury the lead here today. We got a good starting pitcher, up first, and it's one of our former Yankees, Luis Severino. So Matt, why don't you break him down for us, brother?
Absolutely. Thank you for that brilliant introduction there. Luis Severino, he's actually having a decent season. I got to say, I'm impressed. I did not see it coming. Dom did. He called this. I will give credit where credit is due. Through 72 innings pitched, he has 58 strikeouts. He has a 3.25 ERA with a 1.13 WHIP. His FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, is a 3.72. So this is all believable. Maybe like a half a run difference, essentially. But, I mean, everything standing behind him looks good. I was comparing while I was preparing for him, like what's a little different from, his prime year of 2022 and this year. And, the fastball velocity's back up, the movement, his breaking ball stuff isn't moving as much, but I think we're going to get to that improvement as well. He's not getting the Ks as much, but he's not allowing guys to barrel her, and he's causing a lot of ground balls, which is all things I like in a pitcher. Severino has the history of being a very good pitcher. I think Severino, is probably maybe a month or two out from either completely bottoming out or from completely turning on the complete eliteness. It's a two-sided coin on this one. I'm leaning, based off of the stats, that we might see an elite second half, and he might turn on to that original Luis Severino brand that we're all used to when he was on the Yankees. So right now I'm going to say this. Add him now. Luis Severino should be owned pretty widely. I wouldn't say in like the 8-man leagues, but like the 10-man, the 12-man, the 14-man, etc. Luis Severino should be added across the board in those regards, because not only for just his current performance in his next matchup, but also too because I think there is a second half that is possibly could be very brilliant. So add him now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page with Sevy here. I was just mad the Yankees didn't give him another chance. Last year was obviously a standout bad year for Severino. He's never really had a very disappointing season like this in the past, unless you're talking all the way back in 2016 as a 22-year-old. But I think we can throw that one out the window. Honestly, he really only started 11 games that year anyway. So when it comes to Sevy, he's a little bit older now, 30 years old. He's kind of become a different type of pitcher, as Matt really broke down for you. I don't think we're ever going to see prime Luis Severino again, but can we see someone who, is right below that K per 9 with a solid ERA, a solid whip, and honestly could maybe wind up on a better team? The Mets are, I think they're still 3.5 out of the wild card last time I checked. So with that being said, the Mets can go either way here. They can kind of either sell out, get themselves a bunch of prospects, get rid of the guys like Sevy, Marte, Alonso. I don't know if anyone's going to take Lindor's contract, but that's a whole nother conversation. So if Sevy does go to a contender, gets another set of eyes on him, a good pitching coach, as Matt said, we could see a really good second half here, but I'm not counting on Severino to be the old version. If you're picking him up off the waiver wire and he's one of the last pitchers on your team, cool, dominant, great. But I'm not really, going on my way to, like, trade for him and anything like that. Let's see where the thing goes. He's 46% owned on Yahoo. Let's move on to this next guy here, another starting pitcher for you guys. Let's talk Jon Gray. Jon Gray is somebody who, I actually love Jon Gray. Talked about him a bunch over the years. And he's on his way back. He's going to be back. He threw 40 to 50 pitches in a bullpen this past Monday. He threw one Wednesday. Not sure how that one went yet at this point. And then they're saying if all goes well, he could line up for a start on Sunday versus the Giants, which is a pretty nice matchup for Jon Gray there. He has a 2.21 ERA and a 1.19 WHIP on the season through his first 10 starts, 2 wins, 57 innings, 56 strikeouts. And Jon Gray is somebody we've wanted to get away from Coors Field for a while, hasn't actually dominated, dealt with more injuries, kind of been a little bit of an injury-prone guy over his career. But once again, if you could pick him up off the waiver wire, was dropped in a bunch of leagues once, he had the groin injury, 51% owned. That means he's out there in 49% of leagues. I really like Jon Gray. And I think we should all go out there and at least give him a shot. This ERA, but, we'll be used for the rest of the
Yeah, no, I mean, I like what you're saying. I like Jon Gray as a talent. He just hasn't lived up to the hype that I therefore wanted. But the matchup is definitely warranted against the San Francisco Giants. That's where it's kind of like the sell for me. I don't think Jon Gray is like somebody you want to count on long term. He's probably like a spot start, and that's how kind of like a couple of these guys are going to be for like out of the pitching that we're going to have coming up. There's no real long-term value with I think Jon Gray, because I personally wouldn't roll him out there maybe against like, I don't know, the Phillies or any tough matchup essentially, but he gets like a layup against like the San Francisco Giants, White Sox, or anything of that level of talent. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Stream that weekend and then drop him right after he has another bad start. But let's move on here. Let's talk about a guy very similar, and that's Cooper Criswell of the Boston Red Sox. So this is his first really as a starter. Just to throw that out there. And sometimes it doesn't always pan out with guys that come from the bullpen into a starting position. But ultimately, he's getting his licks this year. He's only had 2 starts in the bigs as a starting pitcher twice in his league. But this year he's at about 9. He's had 43 innings pitched. He has 41 strikeouts. He has a 3.92 ERA, a FIP of 3.57, a 1.19. He's going up against the White Sox today as you're listening to this show. So same day ads is the only league that's really this is going to be, applicable to. I'd add him and stream him. White Sox only got Luis Robert back. That team still is light as hell. Even with Eloy back, you just got to get around 2 hitters and you're pretty much not scared of the rest of the lineup, in my opinion. So I think it's a great start for Criswell. I only feel comfortable rolling him out against, easy, pretty much layup matchups. This is a layup matchup for Criswell. If he gives up a home run, he gives up a home run. I don't care, because his ERA will still be about a 4 or 5 if he goes 5 deep. So I ain't really mad at those numbers. He's going to keep the whip down. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. And you know what? He does produce a lot of ground balls. And yes, he is giving up the hard contact, but again, when you produce that many ground balls, it should subside the home runs and things like that, and he should be successful through that. So Cooper Criswell is an ad for today, I guess.
Yeah, man, honestly, I really don't have much to add except that he's 10% owned on Yahoo. So Criswell's out there in a lot of leagues. Even if he goes out there and dominates against the White Sox, he lines up for the Phillies in his next one, and I'm definitely not starting Criswell against the Phillies. So he's a guy just to keep on your radar for streaming purposes going forward in the season. I think he'll be on and off our teams for the rest of the season. So start him against the bad teams like the White Sox, and then obviously against those Phillies, we're not starting him. So, Matt, you think we sneak one more in, or?
Let's pretty much just hit it. So guys, before we move on, we name guys like Hunter Brown and Ryan Weathers and, a whole bunch of other bats that are coming up that you probably need to replace everybody that's getting hurt in this long list of IL season. We'll be right back after this awesome sponsor. You ever worry about what will happen to your family? God forbid something were to happen to you. If so, you should check out Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with financial safety nets starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at $292 per year for $1 million coverages. Some options offer same-day approval, avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare with your options from top companies, and their teams of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk through it all. Talk to your award-winning agents and who will walk you through the process step by step. What you may need to consider is your work-life insurance policy may not actually offer enough to protect your family. God forbid you go down. If you're the sole provider, you really need to be there and make sure that you have a life insurance policy before you. So you don't want to, lose out on that. On top of that, it may not even come with you to your next job. So Policy Genius gives you an unbiased advice from licensed experts, a support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, which honestly is truly great, because they're not going to guide you in a way that's going to hurt you. They're just out for your best interest. Check life insurance off your to-do list today with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description below for your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season unfolds, rely on our dynamic content and get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of those fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. Subscribe now. Elevate that fantasy baseball experience to new levels, and new users get a free 2 weeks. So check it out. I promise you won't want to leave us once you get it. This is the perfect time for people to get called up. Ellie De La Cruz was called up around this time. You don't want to miss out on the James Wood call up. You don't want to miss out on any top prospect call up. So please check us out and join us, because those are the invaluable moments that can be the difference between a championship and last place. So, Tom, take it away, sir.
Of course, brother, and fantastic job there, man. Very well done.
Thank you.
So let's talk some Hunter Brown, right? Let's get into it. And I loved Hunter Brown, right? Hunter Brown is somebody that, I was super, super high on, especially after he came up in, 2022 and had 2 starts and 7 games and looked dominant and had a great minor league season that year with 14 starts, 2.55 ERA, 106 innings, 134 strikeouts, and a 108 whip. Once again, Hunter Brown in the minors in 2022. Those are some great numbers. And then his first full year as a starter last year, as a 24-year-old, Hunter Brown disappointed with a over 5 ERA, good strikeout numbers, but he just really wasn't great for fantasy, and it was a 1.36 whip. And same thing so far this year, over 6 ERA so far this year. Still K numbers are solid, but a 1.57 whip, just really, really bad. So you're like, no, why are we even talking about him then? So his last 3 starts starting to turn things around. Went 6 against Seattle on May 28th, 9 strikeouts, gave up a run, 0.67 whip. His last start against Minnesota, once again, Hunter Brown, who we're talking about here, went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, gave up 3 runs, had a 1 whip. And then on May 22nd against the Angels, Hunter Brown, 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, gave up a couple runs, and had an 0.83 whip. He's really starting to turn things around. This is a guy that has the prospect pedigree, was, one of the highest pitching prospects in all of baseball as far as a couple of years back. And I think the issue, he's tinkering too much. As I go back here and, look at his pitch mix over those last, his only 3 years in the majors, it looks very different. Obviously he leads with that 4-seamer, but, then he's tinkering with the split finger, the knuckle curve, the cutter. I think he really just needs to stick with what's working for him and, go with that. And then, maybe, change some of these other pitches that aren't working for him to more secondary pitches, or even, get rid of him. Like his knuckle curve and his slider, like why even throwing those things this year? He's getting hit at a 333 clip on the slider, a 310 clip on the knuckle curve. I mean, the fastball is getting hit the 4-seam is getting hit at a 326 clip. So, I mean, he's not going to get rid of the fastball, but you know what? Maybe just move things around. Maybe not throw, the 4-seamer 40% of the time. And there's a path to success here for Hunter Brown. Can he achieve it? It remains to be seen, because when this guy first came up, I thought he was going to be next Justin Verlander. I remember they had the video of him and Verlander next to each other, and it looked identical release. So, and then with a mentor like Verlander as well. So, I mean, I don't know, Matt. I'm rambling here. I'm so bitter about Hunter Brown at the moment. Hopefully you could take the reins and get us back on track.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is kind of like on par, right? Like all the underlying stats say, hey, like there is a possibility for him to kind of level out. It's just his fastball and breaking ball stuff is all pretty flat right now. Yeah. And even last year, it started off on the polar opposite. Everything was moving and grooving. There was a mechanic change, I believe, and then things kind of went south. Like you said, he's a tinker, but he's not going to lose. He's not going to leave his fastball alone, because it's a 95 mile per hour thing. Exactly. And on top of that, like here's the things he's doing good, and he's not giving up hard contact. He's producing ground balls. He's not allowing guys to barrel up. And, those are all key things of like a guy that can turn it around if he starts getting movement on his fastball. So Hunter Brown right now, I think, is great. And did you mention who his start is? I think it was a decent one, right? It was
yeah, I double check that. I believe that was part of the reason we were talking about it.
Yeah, the whole reason.
The Angels. That's not
the Angels. Yeah, so I mean, like when it comes to the Angels, like they're a mixed bag of tricks, because I really don't like anybody with Taylor Wood and Mike Trout on that team, and
Trout's not there.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's just Taylor Ward you got to get past. So it's the same argument I have for Criswell, right?
Yeah. What amount of disrespect for my boy Luis Rengifo? Come on, man.
The Geef just is whatever, man. The big Geef is just how I look at him is. He's there when he's there, and when he's not there, you don't even miss him. So he's just, Hunter Brown doesn't have too many obstacles. So yeah, it's just fun to say the Geef. But anyway, that nickname is actually terrible. It reminds me of a, I can't. It's a child-friendly show. But read in between the lines, guys. But anyway, Hunter Brown, ultimately has no obstacles really in this game besides Taylor Ward. You should add him now, and just for the stream, and then just pay attention to him. Watch how he's trending. Watch if his fastball starts picking up on Baseball Savant. You start seeing a little bit more movement, because if the movement happens with his breaking balls and his fastball, this kid can turn from, a mediocre pitcher to a pretty damn good pitcher, and we could see some serious changes in the second half. A lot of things can come. So just keep an eye on the kid. Add him this weekend for the start. Let's move on to Ryan Weathers. We spent way too much time on, Geefin and Browns. And both are just not things we want to smell. So yeah. Let's go with Ryan Weathers here. Ryan Weathers, man, he's been startable as of late. 36% owned. He got hit against Texas, which everybody's getting hit against Texas. 6 ERA, but had 11 strikeouts. Like that's pretty key. And his start against Arizona, 7 Ks. Start against Milwaukee, 8 Ks. Detroit 4, Dodgers 3, but honestly hasn't been giving up too many blow-up games in the ERA category. He's had 1, 2, 3 really horrendous games, and then 2 games at a 4.5 ERA. I can't get mad at that. He's having great movement on his fastball and his off-speed pitches. He has, 95 mile per hour velocity on his fastball. He's producing ground balls. He is giving up a little bit of hard hit, which can make him a little bit more of a volatile start. But, when you're going out against Cleveland today, this is another guy, same day ad, you only really got to get around, Ramirez and maybe Kwan?
Well,
so, like...
actually pretty good. You got David Fry and what's his name, Tyler Friedman. They've actually been a pretty solid team.
I mean, I look at those guys as like B players in terms of like, okay, there's one elite bat in that lineup, and then there's guys that could, if they're on, they're obviously dangerous. Like Fry has been on a heater recently, but that could end tomorrow. These are not guys that I'm counting on to be like the big obstacles. These are guys that have just been hitting. So like when it comes to Ryan Weathers, I think he can go out there and perform. And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, before I say it out loud, he's also at home in Miami. So what does that tell you? More pitcher, more field protection, better landscape for him. So ultimately, Ryan Weathers should be fine. He's able to sleep in the bed with his wife, and have a good night's sleep, if you know what I'm saying. So Ryan Weathers, I feel, can go out and just be successful in this start. And at worst, what happens? He gets you a 6 ERA with 11 Ks. You're down in Ks, do it. You can't risk the ERA and you're doing pretty good. Don't pick him up. But if you're down in Ks, add him.
Yeah, and then he gets the Mets in his next start as well. But before we move into the bats, and we have a bunch of great ones for you today, we do have one more ad.
PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You can pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. You can make your selections, submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I might as well give you some picks to get you started, right? Offer Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to have higher than 0.5 total bases in his next start. Offer Marcell Ozuna to have higher than 0.5 home runs in his next game. And offer Bryce Terang to have higher than 0.5 stolen bases in his next game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. All right. So, Dom, let's keep it rolling, my friend.
Yeah, so let's get into these bats, right? Let's talk about Heliot Ramos from the San Francisco Giants. And I actually have to give a shout out to one of my brothers on this one. Huge shout out to my brother JP. He was on Heliot Ramos like 3 years ago. So big shout out to him for that. And then when I saw the name, then he's actually, getting the shot to perform this year. I was like, oh, okay, I see you. But through 26 games this year, Heliot Ramos has 92 at-bats, 12 runs, 4 doubles, 5 homers, 19 RBIs, a steal, and a .304 batting average. And if you're not familiar with Heliot Ramos, he actually does have a little bit of prospect pedigree, and a little bit of hype, not like a major prospect, but, there's a little bit of buzz around his name. Has some power, has some speed. Honestly, really, really performing well. All the underlying stuff looks very, very good. I think he's going to get the chance to, keep it going here in San Francisco. And at 14% owned, he's out there in a lot of leagues right now. So I think we need to just go out there and get him on our team. Those 5 outfielder leagues, the NL only, stuff like that. And then even when you start talking about 12-man league relevance as well here with the batting average being that high, the RBIs being great, the homers being very well. He's been hitting, at the top of the lineup the last 2 games, first on June 4th and then on June 5th, hit second. So I really think the team is satisfied with him as well. So Heliot Ramos, definitely somebody I'm looking to add right now.
Yeah, he's an interesting name. Essentially, He's interesting, right? But I don't know how much it is. I'm going to ride him while he's on the heater, and then I'll pretty much just dump him when he's not. He's not somebody I truly care whether it is or not. Somebody I'm going to just kind of see where it kind of goes, and as he doesn't perform, you could probably drop him and safely say could probably pick him back up when he starts getting hot again because he's not a name that really is floating around the fantasy community that much. So, Ramos in that point is who he is. Let's talk about somebody that honestly has been impressive since they've been returned, and that's TJ Friedl. Friedl is actually still still has an ownership percentage that is worth talking about. It's 50%. And he had a game yesterday. 3 runs, a bomb, 2 ribs, a stolen base, batting .500, and an OPS of 2,800. He's chilling right now. I like what he's doing. He has the upside. Even on the week, he has 6 runs, 2 bombs, 7 ribs, 2 stolen bases, batting .286. Dude had an interesting year last year. He's not going to blow you away with power. He's probably like a good 20-30 guy. And he's going to bat probably 250 with that lineup having the improvements. Once Encarnacion Strand comes back, Elliot Cruz bounces back, and the rest of that lineup with Steer, he should start benefiting in the runs category, possibly get some ribby opportunities, and should pose to at least have some true fantasy value. Outfield is pretty rough right now, so I would be adding Friedl anywhere he's available just based off of that alone.
Yeah, man, great take on Friedl. I really don't have too much to add there, and I feel like I talked about Friedl very recently. So, great job there. I'm just going to keep things pushing. Let's talk about somebody who's starting to heat back up. Had a lot of buzz around his name after a strong year last year. That's Zach Geloff, the second baseman for the Oakland Athletics. And as I mentioned, off to a slow start, this year, but heating up of late. He is on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game hitting streak. Let's hope he kept it going today, or as you're listening yesterday on June 6th. I don't have the full information, but he's 0 for 1 right now. As I'm talking to you on Thursday at 4:46 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see what Zach Gallo keep going. But he was 2 for 3 with a home run and a steal on June 5th. Homer on June 2nd, steal on May 30th. If you can count on for anything, it's at least power and speed. The runs and RBIs might not be great in that Oakland run lineup. And the batting average was something that I was a bit nervous on him as well. That's why I kind of had him a little bit lower in my second baseman rankings than some other people did in the community. So Zach Gallo for 42% owned. If you pick him up off the waiver wire for nothing, that's an absolute steal at this time of year to get a guy who I think has, Jazz Chisholm-like potential with the home run and speed there. But the batting average might leave a little bit to be desired. But at second base, middle infield right now, you can't go wrong with a guy like Zach Gallo off the waiver wire.
Yeah, I mean, by no means is he going to be this bad of a hitter at 193. Exactly. I think he'll probably finish the year off at like 240, 250, which, hey, you get him on an ad. He was a top 12 second baseman for me. Stolen base upside, home run upside, like Dom spoke about, I think is fantastic. Add him now while he's hot, because I'm telling you, this kid does what I project him to do, and he's going to be probably your best second base ad all year. Speaking of second base admins, let's talk about Brandon Rogers here. Great segue. Cool foreshadowing. This is a guy that's just a kind of like a short-term solution. I know there's those Brendan Rodgers truthers that's just going to be like, oh, this kid's finally going to do it this year. They got the little itch going. I know. I don't believe in it at all.
Raise my hand.
Yeah. So you're going to hear two different sides of the coin on this between Dom and I. I think, obviously you're adding him right now. He's performing. This last 2 weeks, he has 8 runs, 2 bombs, 12 ribs, batting .327. He hits in cores, obviously. But the thing about Brendan Rodgers is I just don't see it being real. He just isn't on a team where there's going to be runs or ribbies. Chris Bryant's about to hit the aisle again. Nolan Jones can't stay healthy. He's been hanging out with Chris Bryant too much. So who's there for him? Who's going to do it? Unless they call up like Yonquil, which he's not even performing good in the minors right now. There is nobody. Yeah, like there's nobody that's there to give him a solution to even bolster up his runs or ribby contribution. He's not really a big home run guy either. So for me, I put my hands up and I go, Brendan Rodgers, start him when he's healthy and you dump him. I mean, you start him when he's performing and you dump him when he's not.
Brendan Rodgers is like Hunter Brown to me, the hitter version, almost, because I just want him to be good so bad. When he was coming up through the minors, he really, really had some strong pedigree. He used to even steal bases back then too. But he's a guy that in cores, could hit for a very strong batting average. I want to say honestly, like 270 plus. And then there's power there. There's power there as well. I think that he could hit, the rest of the way, maybe another 15, maybe 20 homers if he gets absolutely red hot. At 7% owned, you really can't go wrong there for Brendan Rodgers. I think we go out there and give him a shot. If you didn't get the Zach Galloffs of the world, then the TJ Friedls. Brendan Rodgers is somebody that can contribute. June 5th, Brendan Rodgers went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Had a homer on June 3rd with another hit in that game, so 2 for 4. Another 2-hit game on June 1st. Just kind of as Matt said, you could ride the wave while he's hot, and you could dump him when he's not. But guys, I'm going to call it there. That's all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And guys, until tomorrow, we actually, did miss on Monday. So we will have an episode for you tomorrow on Saturday. So make sure you look out for that one. But guys, until next time, see ya.